Hello, Simon Dixon here, CEO and co-founder of BnkToTheFuture.com, and we're here to give an update and a special announcement from the Maidsafe team. So to give you a quick overview, we're currently live with the Maidsafe campaign on BnkToTheFuture.com. We're just shy of $300,000. That's about 11% of the total funding goal in the first few days and 30% of the minimum funding goal approximately. And what we've noticed is we've been reading through the forum comments, and there's some very enthusiastic investors. And at the end of their comment and discussion, they're discussing how they're going to be investing at the end. So we've noticed a slight little problem, and that is that the investment hasn't been going as fast as it should be. The reason being is because there's no incentive structure for those that invest early. So why would you? And people are waiting till the end to actually make their investment. So what we've actually decided to do, and we'll be announcing this at the end of this video, is announce our special incentive structure whereby those that invest earlier and those that have invested already are going to be rewarded for that, so that we can get a true reflection of where this campaign is going and what happens next. So we'll be updating that right at the end. But what I wanted to do is get a quick update from Nick and David from the Maidsafe team. David, we'll start with you. For those that are not familiar, most will be familiar with the project, but for those that aren't, could you give us the 30-second to 1 minute pitch of what exactly is Maidsafe?
Yeah, no problem at all. So, I mean, Maidsafe is the reinvention of the internet as we know it today, but putting the user and the people in front and center. So there's no servers, no corporates, there's no huge companies, there's no intermediaries. So fundamentally what Maidsafe and the Safe Network does is connects everyone's computer and computing device together and allows all internet services to run on that. So video conferencing, storage, email, anything you can think of. And it's really a network of the people for the people. So it's what Bitcoin's doing for money, Maidsafe is doing the exact same thing for the internet. It's removing all the intermediaries and just putting the network in the hands of the people and the desktop computers that people have. So it's a really nice, very secure, very private and freedom enhancing approach to how the internet always should have been and was always promised. The internet that we were promised at the beginning of freedom, the ability to communicate and share important information between important people that you decide to share it with. So the Safe Network itself is a grand proposition. It's a very easy vision to explain. It's very easy for people to accept that should be the way things work. And so that's fundamentally where we started from, and we've taken the time now to go through all the testing, and we're going through alpha releases. So fundamentally, Maidsafe is your internet and controlled by you, and that's the very short pitch for what Maidsafe is.
Excellent. And between that, there's over 30 patents filed and 10 years of R&D work. So something that sounds so simple can be immensely challenging, and that's why this is such an interesting project. Now, for those that are a bit more sophisticated, without going too deep into technicals, we found that Maidsafe is often used in the same sentence as other projects. And interestingly, it's often used in the same sentence as other projects that we've been hosted at BnkToTheFuture.com. So some of the projects that we often hear about is Storage is one of our portfolio companies. Now they're doing a blockchain solution to compete with the likes of Amazon S3 and Google Drive. Well, I guess that's more consumer facing, but more on the Amazon S3. We also got an upcoming project with Kim.com with Mega Upload 2, which is encryption file sharing, and they might actually be working with maybe the Maidsafe network or the storage network, but they're putting a consumer layer on top of it to create something that might compete with Dropbox and also integrates Bitcoin into that play. Then you have things like the Tor and other networks, which, excuse my technical ignorance, which I believe on the surface might be compared to what you're actually doing. And what else have we got? We got other pitches which are live at the moment, like a scenario. And I guess that would then lead into things like Ethereum, which are claiming to be a world computer as well. So let's take some of those concepts and let's try and get an understanding. And you said something really interesting earlier, just before we did this. You said that actually it's not really a fair comparison. Could you just describe in a way that we can understand why this isn't really a fair comparison, and then we can try and make the unfair comparison with some of those projects?
Yeah, no problem at all. I think it's people, when they see Maidsafe simplify, humans simplify things, so maybe see an aeroplane and think of floating things. So for people seeing Maidsafe, they think it's like something I've seen. So that people say it's like Freenet, or it's like Tor, or it's like storage, or it's like Google, or it's like Amazon. And that in itself is interesting, because those things aren't like each other. And Maidsafe gets, and that gives you an idea of the umbrella technology that Maidsafe has actually produced. So there is communications technology in there, there's storage technology, there's cryptography, there's a cryptographic currency, which is not using a blockchain, but a very different approach. So it is very much like a lot of those things, but we would look at many of those things as parts of the toolkit that you need. So our approach is to give people something that is very, very simple to use, and give people security of their data and their communications, but physical security. So in Maidsafe, you cannot deny people access to the network. You cannot deny people access to data. A bit like BitTorrent. However, a huge difference is with Maidsafe, it's like BitTorrent you can log into and you get private information back, and you can share that private information with anyone that you decide to share it with. So there's no intermediaries. It's fully secured from the beginning of the network all the way through to the recipient that you're sending information to or storing data for. So nobody knows what data they're storing. Nobody knows where the data is. Nobody can refuse access to the network. And this is a very different approach to any storage or communication or things like.
So is it fair to say something like this could be seen as Tor, but with a easier user experience? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's fundamental to our approach. It's that no matter how clever it is, if it's not very, very simple to use. So if a user can't click, try it, and it's running, then it's not any use. So a project which is even similar is Signal, the secure communication, telephone, and messaging system. They've went down the approach of make it simple, make it easy, so that you hide the security, you hide the cryptography, you hide all this confusing terminology. But even with these kind of projects, they still have servers. So there's a piece missing in that someone could go and close down the servers, someone, even Proton Mail and things like that, someone could go to Iceland and shut those servers down. And our approach is it should not be possible. So
that's the key part of that then is that there is no server, which actually completely eliminates, not reduces, the ability to shut down the server.
Absolutely. Well, when we looked at this to begin with 10 years ago, we thought we need to secure servers. How do we do that? And there's a couple of tricks. And our idea was remove them. If you remove the server, you've got 100% security in terms of server hacking. The other important thing that we did was looked and said, how do we secure these passwords that are flying about the place and people logging in? Well, don't ever transmit them in the network. Don't store them in the network. That's how your password can be secured from network attacks. So that's been done. So there's several things like self-authentication and technical things that we do, but fundamentally, it's a completely distributed, secure, decentralized network that you as a person can easily access. And then once you've accessed that network, which is your decision, completely your decision, nobody can stop you doing it, no matter what firewalls or anything that's in between you. We've got people in China using it. It's not a problem. It's completely your decision to put your data there, and it's completely share that data. No one can stop you doing that. So the proposition is similar to a lot of projects where they're privacy or towards very much into anonymity and whatnot. But our issue with some of those is love what they're doing, love their vision, but the execution has to be that the people getting this technology see a better, faster, simpler experience. So Dropbox, where you don't need to sign up, give credit cards and that sort of information, you just use it and you get a huge amount of space. The other thing that we do differently from maybe the likes of Signal and Tor and things like that is, as you're using these applications that you've downloaded free of charge, you'll see a wallet pops up and you start earning money. So you're providing resources, the network's going to pay you. So it's a very balanced network, but that in itself allows a huge amount of responsibility and power, and it puts that back in the hands of the people. But not only that, we remove the requirement for servers, we remove the requirement for data centers, which is 3% of the world's electricity. If you look at the computing power on people's desks, it dwarfs Amazon plus Google plus all these companies added together. We have got much more computing power. So what Maidsafe does, it attacks the insanity of a very badly designed, insecure, can never be private internet, and replaces it with a much simpler, secure, private internet that allows people to have this freedom to be a whistleblower, to connect medical devices together, to get autonomous cars to all speak the same language to each other, which would be significant for the Internet of Things in the future, for those technologies to all use a secured, mathematically correct network that has got no ownership by any corporate, any company, or any person. And that's where the Maidsafe network takes this big leap. It's a very big leap away from many other projects where you're setting stuff up, or there's servers, or there's intermediaries, or the project can be stopped. The Maidsafe vision is, when this is rolled out, as it's doing at the moment, we can't even stop it. So even if the government or someone came and said stop, we can't stop this network moving forward. And it's a bit like going back in time. We couldn't stop flight happening. We couldn't stop cars happening. This is a technological advance which is absolutely obvious to even a child, that if you store something in a computer, why would it not be there in 100 years' time? If you walk up to a computer, why can't you get your information on any computer? So what we're actually doing sounds very difficult, but when you think about it, it's very obvious. And I've said to people before, when you're looking at programs from the future or whatever, Star Trek or Star Wars, nobody logs into Google to go and send an email to the Klingons. We know this model that we have doesn't work. So the Maidsafe proposition is, I believe, extremely compelling, but very obvious. It's like I said recently, we're all driving about in cars with square wheels, and we've come along and said, here's a round wheel. And people sometimes find that quite difficult to take on board, but it's insane to have servers, it's insane to have password lists, and it's really insane to have some intermediary controlling your data and your access to your data and your communications. So it makes it really is the answer to these problems.
Okay, so I'm going to do now a rapid fire for some of the projects, and then I'm going to give you my understanding. And then what would be great is if you could correct my probably incorrect understanding of the project. So you mentioned things like the Internet of Things. So that would be a claim, a blockchain like Ethereum is actually claiming. There's some kind of smart contracting system. They claim to be, the world computer, where they're using blockchain technology in order to allow people to do smart contracts. Recently, it turned out that the founder of the Ethereum Foundation was able to roll back and fork the network, and that led to an interesting events that followed, where people are claiming that this isn't decentralized. Maybe you could compare or say that this is not a fair comparison of how something like a project of Ethereum might differ from this.
Yeah, well, there's several things that Ethereum and even Bitcoin, blockchain-based technologies differ from this, and that you can see already, and even in your question, there's several layers. So you've got the core team, whatever, then you've got this kind of blockchain, which is managed by these miners. So when we removing intermediaries in Maidsafe, we really mean remove intermediaries. No miners. There's no small groups of conglomerates of people that you can decide where we're going to change the rules now. We're going to do some kind of rollback. But our focus from day one has been privacy, security, and freedom for all of the world's people. I have never seen that in another project. So people talk about maybe Ethereum's got a world computer. Well, I don't really care what a world computer is. It'd be fantastic if we get some technological help from that. But from the Maidsafe perspective, it's privacy, security, and freedom for all of the world's people with everything that they do on the internet. And I don't think the Ethereum world computer is looking at a security aspect or privacy or anonymity, and that's it. So it's a slightly different proposition. And right. I think they learn from each other, these projects, but it's not the same proposition.
Okay, then, so let's take a project like Scenario, who's looking at building a technology stack that allows people to create decentralized applications and a programming language, so you could run something like a decentralized social network. In fact, let's take those two examples of Ethereum and Scenario. Is this a completely ignorant comment to say that actually these technologies could use something like the Maidsafe network, and actually there's a partnership there, or is that a silly comment?
No, I think it's a perfectly valid comment, and it's kind of like, if you imagine, even if they were exactly the same, trying to do the same thing, provide privacy or provide an application development platform, because this seems to be something that people say, we're doing an application development platform. And it's a bit like saying we're doing software. So what does that mean? That's a huge. So as I say, we've got this razor sharp focus on privacy, security, and freedom. You'll log into the internet, you'll log into your internet, and you will decide what you're doing. In terms of having the application programming interface to allow dynamic things to happen, like create Facebook or create, everybody's saying that they can do that, and that's fine. So we're actually doing it at the moment. So Project Decorum's on our thing. So they're doing, the difference for us is fundamentally at the very, very heart of it, there can be no intermediaries, there can be no servers, and there can be no lack of security. So our approach is, this is why it's the longer road. It's secure the network at its very core, secure the data at its very core, and ensure that there's anonymity on the network where it's required. So those things have to be done first. The outside of it, the applications, they come at the end. For us, they come at the end. I think for a lot of other projects, those applications are coming at the beginning, and it's like, we're going to do this. So you can put an application interface out and say, now you can build anything, but we need guarantees of the security. So IPFS is a project quite similar to distributed hash tables, and they themselves say they don't worry about security just now. So absolutely, there's partnership opportunities for these projects. So we've went the hard road and provided the security, or we're providing the security and the distribution and the fault tolerance and self-healing and autonomous networking, the authenticated self-authenticated login mechanisms to distributed computing. So we've got a lot of technology here that we think other projects will make great use of. And we see some other projects more at the application layer, and that's fantastic as well. And we would hope to work with those projects.
So just summarizing that now, could somebody build a blockchain on top of the Maidsafe network? And is there any point in doing that?
It could be done, but it's sort of like trying to build a stagecoach on top of a Lamborghini. It's possible, but it might not be all that useful. The blockchain for us is a design pattern. Bitcoin takes that design pattern with economic incentives and makes something exceptional from it. Ethereum's doing similar, but they're looking more at a compute version. But a ledger is a ledger. It doesn't make any difference if you can anonymize the transactions. You're working on an open ledger. So the Maidsafe approach is it's not an open ledger. You can have ledger components, but it's not a ledger, so it's not based on a ledger. And if your technology is based on a ledger, that's what it is. It's open, it's visible, it's trackable, it's auditable, and that's where, again, we've this difference. When we started, we said first things first, security. Then you release what you want to release. So the Bitcoin or blockchain thing is first things first. It's an auditable blockchain, so it's an auditable ledger. So that's one of the differences in the road. We've taken the different view of we'll secure you first, and then you decide what you want to share. If you're on a blockchain, you're on a blockchain. Now, what can we do to try and hide you on this public ledger, which doesn't work for me. Technically, it doesn't work for me. I think Bitcoin is phenomenal. The blockchain technology is phenomenal, but it is blockchain technology. It's public ledger technology. In Maidsafe, we've went for not completely secure, but we've went for secure and private information first, and then the user decides what they want to share. So we're not sharing stuff first and then trying to see how we can hide, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. So these running a ledger or a blockchain on the Maidsafe network could be done, but it wouldn't make sense. Running an open ledger on a Maidsafe network can be done. In fact, we do that. And people put on that ledger what they want to be public. So there's nothing on the ledger that should be private. And that's the way a ledger should be. A billboard is something you want people to read. The contents of a safe is something you don't want them to read. So we give people the ability to decide what they want to share. We don't share everything and then try and work out how can we hide it, which kind of doesn't make sense, if you see what I mean. Okay,
yeah, this is becoming a lot clearer to me now. So, the focus, one could think of it like this. Like, so the focus of a blockchain is to build, security and anonymity in order to have certain applications like a currency like Bitcoin. But privacy is not the goal because it's a public ledger, obviously. So they build anonymity into it, and then you can have various factors in order to give yourself certain privacy. But again, it's built upon trying to put some kind of security and anonymity for certain applications on top of the existing internet. But Maidsafe is building the privacy and security at the core layer. So maybe this could be in the future, just like at the moment when you're building an application, you have to build that app for both the iPhone and Android. Maybe in this transition phase, as the safe network gets more traction, people will actually be building different applications, one for a blockchain and one for the safe network, and giving some kind of alternative options for people. Maybe that's where this is going to go. I don't know. We'll leave that for a further discussion anyway. So I think it's getting clearer what the difference is. So projects like Storage are using blockchain on the existing internet. I think we could say Kim.com with his mega uploads will be using maybe a service like Storage, and then maybe they can build an application on top of the Maidsafe network as well to have different levels of services. So I think it's now time probably to move over to Nick. Now, Nick, what we wanted to do with you is get a quick update on some of the things that have happened recently, what you got on the pipeline very quickly. And then we're going to go through the incentive that we've put together for investors in order to help those that have already decided to invest early, and for the ones that have already decided to invest but haven't invested yet, to incentivize them to invest early. So let's start with the update. As the chief operating officer of the project, what have you recently released, and what's coming?
Yeah, so just to bring people up to speed that are not necessarily in tune with Maidsafe on a day-to-day basis, we actually released an alpha in August, and the alpha is effectively a vault network that we control running in, ironically, within a data center that allows us to make sure these nodes are always online. And so what we released in August was that network, and also the ability for end users to download installers and connect to that network and use a demo application that we created that allows them to store private data, share public data, create their own websites, etc. So that went out about a month ago, and what we did last Friday, I think, was we released an email application. So as you were talking about at the start, Simon, and David mentioned it as well, Maidsafe is quite often just lumped in with a storage network or a storage provider. And the great thing about this email application, and the application itself is very basic and intended to be, it's really there for developers to use that as a tutorial to create more sophisticated email clients. But what it does show is that this is more than a storage network. It's going to be possible to run increasingly complex applications. And so what we're planning to do from now, every 2 weeks, for the next, I think, probably 6 weeks, we will be releasing new functionality that allows developers to create ever more complex applications. Initially, they will focus probably on collaborative apps, so ability to create things like forums or collaboration tools like Slack, which are quite commonly used. So those are some of the things that we'll see. Also, in tandem with that track, we'll have some of our core team are working on making users running vaults from home much more efficient and effective, and making sure that low performing computers at home, maybe they have a poor internet connection, for example, making sure that those nodes don't adversely affect the network. So enabling user run vaults from home is a focus. And I think that's been worked on as well. And I think we probably won't see, I think Alpha 2 will be just around the corner. So I think we're moving in the right direction there. I think the final update I would give, Simon, is that we're also working in a community project. So one of the people on our forum, a developer, is actually creating a safe network-specific browser. So whilst users can currently use a browser of their choice, like Chrome or Firefox, to search and look for data on the network, it's not as secure as a safe specific browser. So that's possible to run that today. It's fairly early examples of that, and I think that will be polished over the next 3 to 4 weeks. So there is a lot going on the development side.
Excellent. Okay, and I know you've been telling me about some exciting projects that are coming up, but you obviously don't want to announce them just in case it doesn't come through, because it's not fair. But have you got anything that you can announce of what's in the pipeline, or?
In terms of other projects, or in terms of like incentives or something? Or?
All right, well, I'll tell you what, let's move straight to the incentives, because I think you've covered that quite well. Yeah. In terms of incentives, so we've been racking our brain, and what we decided to do is Bank to the Future is going to play their part, and we're going to be offering a bonus that shifts the return, so that the investors that have already invested get some kind of higher returns, and the earlier that people decide that are on the fence right now that have decided to invest but they haven't invested are going to get some kind of higher returns. I'll go through that afterwards. But also, Maidsafe have also offered something which I think is pretty special and unique. And to give some background on it, there is a coin that goes with the Maidsafe network called Maidsafe coin, I think. And that was like a preliminary coin, but the main coin that will actually be used as to power the network, and Nick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, SafeCoin, but SafeCoin actually isn't released yet because it's got some very special properties to maintain the privacy and security part of it. But you're going to be offering a bonus for those that invest centered around SafeCoin. Could you explain a bit more, Nick?
Yeah, of course. I mean, as you're saying, Simon, we were concerned that without an incentive structure in place at the start, that people were potentially waiting till the end. And so we're keen to make sure that people have an incentive to invest, because obviously we want this to succeed. We need we use the money for furthering development, scaling the team, making everything go quicker. So I think it's important that it does succeed from our perspective. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is actually offering, as you said, Simon, SafeCoin. So not Maidsafe coin, but SafeCoin. And our intention is to offer for every £4 that's invested into the pitch, we would offer one SafeCoin. So these would be delivered to each investor as SafeCoin is added to the network and goes live. So likely to be at some point during 2017 that this would happen. It would be delivered on a kind of uniquely branded USB key that users would basically plug in and access their SafeCoins on the network. So we think it is something unique. I don't see us ever looking to do something like this again. And like I say, it gives hopefully investors an early incentive to invest, but it also gives them some kind of unique memento that should this network scale to where we think it will get to, that's something that no one else will have. I mean, we were just talking about it before we went on air, Simon. Imagine having the first, some memento from Google just as they launched their search engine. It'd be pretty special. So that's what we're looking to do, and hopefully that will motivate people to invest and take hold of the opportunity.
Okay, great. And then as we said, this is not about pushing investors. This is about the investors that have decided to invest already, that are waiting till the end. We're going to, below this video, have some further details about how you can get hold of those and what the deadline is to capture that, just so that those who have decided to invest, makes it more of an incentive for them to invest earlier, so that we can get this past the minimum funding goal and push forward. What we've decided to do at Bank to the Future, and again, the full details will be below, is we do a lot of mining in Iceland. So we mine Bitcoins in Iceland. We have mining farms that are mining Bitcoins every single day. And what we're going to do is we're going to allocate some of those mining computers, if you want, mining hardware, to investors in this pitch. The earlier you invest, and this will be outlined with full details below, the more hash power you're actually going to get. Now, I assume most people watching this video are pretty sophisticated and familiar. For those that are not, Bitcoin is essentially run by miners. Miners they run hardware, and they run software, and that performs a very important task of securing the network. Every 10 minutes, newly created Bitcoins are given to the miners, and what we will be doing is we can distribute the amount that we allocate towards each investor on a daily basis. And then when you log into the financial side of your account, you'll actually be able to see each day a small amount of Bitcoins that come into your account each day, depending on how early you invest. The earlier you invest, the more hash power we're going to give you, and all the details will be below. A few points I want to be crystal clear. This is not in itself, please do not invest for the bonus. This is not going to produce a return on investment. This is a thank you for investing early, and an incentive to do so earlier rather than wait to the end. So we don't want any emails saying, I'm going to wait 1,000 years till my Bitcoins actually produce a return. This will not produce a return. Maybe if Bitcoin heads to $100,000 in the future, then it might, but it's a thank you, and it will give you some Bitcoins each day. Also, an important thing is that we will do that for as long as it's profitable. At some point, which could be very soon or it could be longer, the mining will no longer be profitable as more and more people mine. It gets more and more difficult to mine, and eventually it doesn't cover the electricity cost, and the dividends will stop at that point, and we'll just let you know. Another important point, no point emailing Maidsafe saying, why are my dividends low, why are my dividends high, or how much hash power have I got? Bank to the Future will be administering this. It's not a dividend from Maidsafe. It's a bonus from Bank to the Future, and we will send you an email each day. And if you have any, if you need to ask us any support, then that's Bank to the Future. That's not Maidsafe. So those are the important points. And below this video, you can get full details. The earlier you invest, the more hash power you'll have. And hash power will give you daily Bitcoin bonus based upon the difficulty rate and our cost of electricity and various other factors. So I think we've covered a lot of the points. This forum on the Bank to the Future, if you're a qualifying investor, you can go to the forum. You can ask the Maidsafe team questions. You can ask the Bank to the Future team questions about how the investment is structured or anything else you might need to know. But all the details are on the pitch. And I'd just like to thank David and Nick for doing this incredibly interesting project that seems like an immense challenge, but they've put 10 years into this. The team is still working away. They seem to have put together a great team to perform this task. All the details for qualifying investors are on the investor page. And thank you for your time. And hopefully this pushes us through the minimum funding goal, and we'll review from there. So thanks for joining us on this, Nick and David.
Thank you, Simon. Cheers.
Thank you, Simon. Cheers. And I'd just like to have a quick shout out to any other projects that's in the space that we're all working very hard, but it would be great to have further collaboration as we all move along, and we should keep that in mind. But
yeah, and that's one of the things we try to do at Bank to the Future, because we're niche to fintech, encrypted technologies, and finance and technological innovation. We tend to find a lot of collaboration. So wherever we can, we try to put all our projects together and facilitate introductions, and see what the synergies are. And that's already happening quite a lot. And so we look forward to seeing how we can play our part as well in facilitating some introductions and helping grow this opportunity, should this all reach its minimum funding goal, and get to where we know it can be. Okay, so that's all from us, and we're going to end the recording now.